Hello, it's me, and I interrupt this regularly scheduled program for a super emergency request, an important emergency request that I had. Now, there's requests that I get sometimes, but this one is an emergency request to help out with this particular puzzle here. This is the 3x3 Mixup cube. Now this is an interesting one. I know there's a whole series. Now from time to time what I'll do is I'll get a representation of a puzzle in a series and decide if I like it, decide if I want to go forward with it. And I'm still kind of in the deciding phase, but I did have this around, so I thought I'd go through this. Now what's interesting about this puzzle is aside from functioning like a normal 3x3 Rubik's Cube, it does something very interesting. In this case, centers can become edges, and edges can become centers, and centers can all swap around. So you can move it off center like this, and this edge can actually perform the function of a center, and these can perform functions of edges. Now because of that, this has some very interesting properties where it appears to break all the laws of the cube. In this puzzle, because of the process of swapping out centers with edges, by doing these extra swaps, the reason why you got the law of cubes to begin with is because of the consistency of motions. Corners went where corners go, edges go where edges go, centers go where centers go. In this case, because you can exchange those, you can actually appear to break parity of this puzzle and have what appears to be impossible situations. What I'm going to do, because the majority of the questions that I got with this puzzle was how to get through some of these seemingly impossible situations. So what I'm going to do at the very first part of this video is describe what these are and how to kind of get through them. And if that's all you're curious about, well, the first part of this video may be all that you need to see, although I'll go through an entire tutorial with this. So among the things that you're not supposed to see with the law of puzzles is you can't just turn one piece 180 degrees, nor can you just do one swap. You can only do even number swaps. So you can swap these two and these two, or these two and these two, but not just this. And if you're going to rotate a piece by 90 degrees, you must rotate another piece by 90 degrees. Well, this one, well, seems to break those rules, and that's because in this particular puzzle you can swap these guys. And when you do that, you can bring it back and put it into a situation that might seem to be impossible. So I'm going to kind of run through some of the processes that we're talking about. What I'm going to show first is a very basic move that will make or break parity. In other words, I can take this piece and I can not only rotate it by 180 degrees, but without changing anything else, I can even rotate it by 90 degrees. I can rotate this any way that I want just because of the strange and bizarre swapping aspect with this. So here's the algorithm that I use. I'm going to write it, so if you just want to pay attention to what I'm doing, that might be best. What I'm actually going to want to do is I'm going to want to take this and flip it. But in so doing, I have to put it into a center space. So what I'm going to do, and let me define some moves here. You know that this is R and this is RI, this is L, and this is LI. Well, we also define an M move. I don't do too many M moves in tutorials, but it's warranted with this because we're going to be turning edges into centers. Well, the M move follows the move of the L. So this would be M as it comes down like this, and this would be M prime. Now there's also moves that go along the equator, or equatorial moves. And those equatorial moves follow in the same nomenclature as the U moves. So if this is U and this is UI, this would be E and EI. You also have moves that slice over here, and these are called S move, S for standing. And this follows the same direction as F. So if this is F and this is FI, then this is going to be S, and this is going to be SI. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece, and without affecting any piece here, I'm going to do something impossible. I'm going to take this and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Then I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees, and nothing is going to change, and that has to do with how the swapping happens. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up putting this over here, but I'm going to turn it into a middle piece first. So I'm going to do an M prime move. Now, if I'm going to do a move that is just at a small angle like this, as opposed to 90, so if it's a 45 degree angle, I'm just going to call it, for the sake of ease, 45. So this is going to be M45. Bang. Actually, I guess it's going to be an MI45. So I'm going to put that over there. Then I'm going to do an E move, which is going to come across over here. And I'm going to take this and put this in this place. It's for the purpose of bringing it here. So then I'm going to do a full M move. And now I'm going to take this, which has become my center slash edge, and move it over here with EI move, a full EI move. Movement here is a little difficult, but I'm just going to move that in here, like so. Okay, now that I've done that, I can take this and move it any way I want, however I want it to end up here. So I'm just going to, if I just wanted to turn it 90 degrees, I'm just going to go like this, bang. So now that's 90 degrees. So to move it back, I'm now going to do an E move, like so. Then I'm going to move this back to the center over here with a full MI move, like so. And now I'm going to move this one in to match where it's supposed to be with a EI move, like so. And now I'm going to finish it up with an M45, like so. And then I'm going to move this back again, of course, too. Oh, just like that. So at the end of the day, what I did is I just turned this here. So the whole key is turn this edge into a center, move that center over here, move it any way you want, and just move it back with that exact same algorithm. Now, after saying that algorithm, I'm just going to do the move because it's kind of an intuitive thing. But I was able to turn this 45 degrees, and if I wanted to turn it another 45 degrees, same kind of thing. Blast it up like that, move this center in, move this down, bring it to the side over here. I move this any way I want. So I'll move it down over here, and I'll bring it back, move it up, bring this in, and move it down. And then I move this back up too. So basically I have this turned around in an impossible position. And the fascinating thing about this puzzle, by doing this, swapping edges and centers, you can do impossible moves with this. So it makes the solve and it makes the variability and the scramble of this cube almost like a new concept, like a completely different thing, seeming to break the law of cubes, but it actually doesn't. It just does this remarkable swapping process. The reason why the law of cubes came about is because you didn't have that swapping process, but you do, so you seem to kind of break it. Now to turn this around, if I wanted to turn this around, I'm going to do the same pattern of moves. So MI45, E, M, EI, then I'm going to do a 2R, or R2, however you want to put it, and just move it back. So that's going to be an E, MI, EI, and then just an M45. And then do another 2R over here. So that brings it back. So that's how you turn that around. So you can get complete control of specifically this piece without moving anything else. Now, to those of you who have tried to solve this, and this was really what was generated with the viewer question, is how to get out of other types of parity. So that's one parity that you can get out of in that way. But there's another kind of parity that happens with this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate a process that I use of solving new puzzles that have maybe novel shapes. And I did something like this with Master's Cube. So in deciding how to move pieces around, basically what you want to do is you want to see if you can 3-cycle different pieces, specific pieces, around the puzzle without affecting any other piece. So what I would do first is I would design something of a commutator, which is usually of the form x, y, x prime, y prime, or more specifically x, y prime, x prime, y. What that does is that has a specific move that moves specific pieces around and then just reverse it. So what I mean by that is I'm going to take a commutator that I use a lot. So I don't want to invent something new, but something that I use a lot. I use this for the White Eden circle cube with the circle on the top or the circle on the bottom, or the Saturn 3x3 plus cube. Anytime I don't want to do an up move because of a circle and destroying the reduction that I did with the inner and outer edges. And if all I want to do is an F move and an R move, if I wanted to move this to here, then what I can do is I can go like, if this is the F face, this is the U face, RI, U, R, UI. Pretty simple. Basically what that did is every edge is exactly the same except for these three. This went to here, this went to here, and this went to here. So there's a 3 cycle here. These moved as well, but let's say we didn't care about that. So this is a way to move 3 edges around. To get it back, I just reverse everything that I just did. So that's going to be U, RI, UI, R. So at the end of the day, you may think, well, so what? So what did you do? You just moved it in one way, and then you moved it right back. You completely reversed what you did. You went like this, then you went like this. Well, if you add on a move in the middle, in a layer that hasn't been moved, like say an S move here, then you're going to find yourself, if you keep repeating that over and over again, you're going to find yourself right back where you started with the moves over here, with the top and the bottom pieces, but with a different conformation of the middle slice. So here's what I mean by that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just sort of design a commutator right now that moves this middle piece around in between the commutator and the reversal of the commutator. So what I'm going to do is this, is I'm going to do my RI U, R, UI, and before I reverse it, I'm going to do an S move. Bang. So I just move that middle move over here, and now we'll reverse it with a U, RI, UI, R. After doing that, I'm going to move an S move again. So that was one turn of that algorithm, and do the same thing. Turn, 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 do an S move. And it's easy for me to remember what I have to do next because this piece just comes into here and I just reverse that, turn, 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 turn. And I know that I'm done because this is good and this is good. Then I move an S move again. So that was 2 turns of that commutator, and now we'll do it again. RI, U, R, UI, do an S, then finish it up, reverse it rather, with U, RI, U, RI. Now let's take a look at what we've got. What was the end result of doing that 3 times, only eliminating that final S at the end? You can see that what I did is all the edges are back except these 2. I basically flip-flopped these 2 edges. But you know that I can't flip-flop these edges without exchanging or swapping other things as well. So here's the yellow center. You see that this yellow center went here, this green center went here, this white center went here, and this blue center went here. So that's okay. Basically, this is the equivalent of doing 3 swaps. This went to here, so this swapped, then this swapped, then this swapped. That's 3. And then this swapped here, so that's 4. So that's a total of an even number of swaps. So that's completely fine, completely kosher within the context of the law of cubes. But what it appeared to do is swap these 2, but it's not parity because I had a perfectly good amount of swaps of these. But let's say there's some ambiguity here. Let's say that all of these centers happen to be of the same color, or 2 centers are of the same color. You can see how it might bring out what appears to be a parity, these 2 swapping without affecting anything else. But because all these centers have different colors, then you can see the effects of what that swap entailed, which means swapping these guys. That's if I moved it like a normal puzzle, like a normal cube. Now notice when I did the S moves, if you're counting how many times I did that, with the first turn of the algorithm, I did it twice. Second turn, I did it twice, so that's 4. And then the last turn, I didn't do the last S move, so it was just 5. So that came down to 5 moves of the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is why this yellow one ended up here. But what about these? How come these ended up right back where it started from? Well, basically because these were involved in that too. So let's count that out. This comes here, 1, 2, 3, then it comes down here 4, then it comes up here 5. Which means that this went all the way around right back where it started. This too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all of these wrapped around 5 times, but the edges had a longer journey to go. Because they had a longer journey to go, they ended up right back where they started. Whereas this ended up at 90 degrees from where it was before. This one didn't end up over here. So by the end of that, these 2 got swapped. These ended up back where they started, and these ended up skewed. So you can see how the parity of the puzzle works. If I do it again, if I do the same pattern again 3 times, I expect that this will be here, this will be here, and this will be here. And these 2 will be swapped back. And we'll see how that works within the context of the law of cubes. So once again, turn, bang, bang, zoom, pow, turn. That's once. Do it again. Turn, bang, splat, plunk, turn. That's twice. One more time. Let's see what sparks fly. And turn. Okay, so what we see is these two did swap back and these are over here. But there's been no problems with the total law of cubes because this went to here, this went to here. That's one flip, and then these two flipped. That's two flips. So this need not have been affected. So basically all these went back in because they had a longer journey to take, and these just got 90 degrees off from where they were before. So do that enough times and this will eventually end up back. And you get this nice little pattern here. Turn, turn. So basically this is how I approach new puzzles that might do strange and bizarre things. Just keep having the faith that it will follow the law of cubes, but it might not do it in the way that you would have expected or potentially anticipated. But it all makes sense. Now you see this here, once again these are dragged out, that's because these are off kilter. So one more flip should get it all back. Turn, 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 and bang, zoom, pow, splat, and we're good. Okay, so why did I go through that? Well, I wanted to illustrate where the parity of this puzzle comes from. The parity of this puzzle comes from the fact that these centers and these edges move independently. Because these edges took a longer journey around the puzzle, they ended up at a different place than these guys. So this ended up here, this ended up here. The long journey that happened because of the nature of the commutator that I did by 3 cycling these around, this to here, this to here, this to here, so it had to follow that journey around as it was going through. Because of that, the centers and the edges ended up at different places. It just so happened that the edges ended up right back where they started each time, but the centers got skewed. What happens though? What do you think would happen if I do the same process, but instead of doing a whole S, I just do an S45? What that basically means is that these centers aren't going to be just flopping from one center place to another center place, and these edges, same thing. Centers are going to be going to edge places, and edge places are going to go to center places. So what that's going to translate to is a complete skewing of what we think is going to be likely to happen, and that's where the parity of this puzzle comes from. The parity of this puzzle is because you're borrowing moves and you're borrowing swaps from edges to centers, and when you do that, you're going to have what appears to be a disruption of the law of puzzles. So what's going to happen is if I do that commutator, this won't come here, this will come here. So how many swaps will it take? If I assume that these two swap, how many swaps will it take to bring this back around? Well, this will be one swap, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, as this will end up down here, 8, and then 9. So it's going to be 9 swaps to get it back here, and then the 10th swap will be these two guys swapping over here. What that means is in 10 swaps, I'm going to take this and return it back to its original position, and these two will be swapped. This will also return to its original position because this will follow the same course that this took. This follows the same course as this, so the same number of swaps will bring all these back in relation to each other, but this will end up swapped. So theoretically speaking, you can completely follow the law of cubes and end up with what appears to be a parity. So let's see what happens when you do this. I'm going to do the same commutator, starting here, but I'm going to make sure that there's 9 swaps, which means it's going to be 5 turns of that algorithm. So we have RIU, RUI, and now we do an S45 right over here, and now we reverse it. URI, UIR. All right, so there's that, and now we do an S45, and we keep going around. So that's 1 turn of the algorithm. Do it again. Turn. And turn. That's 2 of the algorithm. Do it again. That's 3 turns of the algorithm. Keep going. we do it more times just because there's more movements that have to happen. And turn. Okay, now we're up to 4 of the algorithm. Let's see what happens as we head to the 5th one. Turn and bang, zoom, pow, splat. And look at that. As predicted, with 5 of them, all of these return back to their base, with these 2 ending up swapped. So what it appears to be is this appears to be creating that parity that you guys have probably come across. The reason for that parity is because these centers are no longer going to where the centers go, taking the journey that centers go as you do each S move. And these are no longer just taking the journey of the edges, where you have a longer journey since you come down to here, to here, to here, to here, to here, to here, making them off kilter with this, so that edges appear in a place and centers appear sort of off where they were from before. Edges return where they started, but centers don't. Instead, they all end up at the same place, but you end up with these swapped over here as they're out of kilter. So that's how you end up with that. If I do this algorithm again, what should happen is once again these will return back and this will be swapped back. The reason why it works is that although you think it was just one swap, it was. But really what happened is that in addition to that one swap, there was a set of 9 swaps that happened as these guys swapped all the way around to end up where it started from. It was a total of 10 swaps. But it appears by the end of it that there is just one swap that turned this into a quasi-parity. That's how you sort of cheat on this and create something that looks like a swap, but in reality it emerges out of this interesting property. So let's do that commutator again, which will drag us out of this parity. So once again, hold it here. RIU, RUI. Do an S45. URI, UIR. S45. All right, that's 1, and we're just going to keep going. You don't even have to keep count because you can follow along where you're at. You see this over here, so you know your next step is going to be here, and keep going. All right, you see that the top is completely formed again, so we do it again. Over here, and over here. So we're making use of the unusual characteristics of this puzzle. And the reason why this works is because of the strange and unusual process of swapping edges with centers and moving them all around. And that gets us out of that situation. Okay, so with that said, knowing what has to happen regarding how to turn this around and create and recreate parity and basically turn this where it needs to go, and how to get out of potential parities, let's see how this translates into the scramble of this puzzle. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this. This is a very new concept, this whole mix-up concept, which is pretty fascinating. Turn it up over here. Now the movement is a little catchy. It catches a little bit. It's not always the best, but it does scramble in really fascinating and interesting ways. The puzzle hasn't popped on me yet, but has come very close. And the nature of how this puzzle appears to be put together is I would hate to have to reassemble this. So I kind of do this a little gingerly. So let's make with the magic. Abracadabra.